I wasn't expecting to talk about Me Too with you here, but I'm interested to know where you would draw the line here because I think there's a line, I don't know where it is, but there's a line to the left of which we're not going to see any of these people again. And if you're on the right side of that line, you will have a comeback. And I think, I suspect because of how he responded and because of the nature of the offenses, Louis C.K. is on the right side of that line. I mean, and also given that he was a comic. But I would expect that Charlie Rose and Kevin Spacey, and I mean, certainly Harvey Weinstein are on the left side of that line, and there will be no comeback.
Yeah, I mean, that I would certainly bet on Louis C.K. making a comeback. Charlie Rose, I mean, it's also a question of what they have to offer the world, and I think Louis C.K. can incorporate what he did into his art in a way that people will find ultimately appealing. But having Charlie Rose come back and do more of those interviews that were already getting kind of tired at the time. So I mean, part of the equation, whether this is fair or not, is, well, what's the benefit that can come from, artistically, or in terms of what kinds of norms you can broadcast, or the ways in which it would be healthy for everybody involved, to see you take responsibility and be reintegrated into the community. And with someone like Charlie Rose, who's already on the backside of his career, it's a little harder to imagine. But I could imagine a sort of a younger version of Charlie Rose in the earlier part of his career. And again, I don't exactly know what Charlie Rose did. I know he was creepy, and I know he was accused of but he wasn't accused of sexual assault, was he?
Not that I'm aware of. No, but it was just kind of just the professional impediment that's posed to so many people working under him. And I mean, he was kind of way across the line in terms of the power imbalance and the harassment side of this thing in a way that Louis C.K. wasn't. But I was like Kevin Spacey is the easier example because it's easy to see that he could have done many more movies and many more seasons of House of Cards or whatever it was, and the people perceive a real artistic loss there. I mean, they would want Kevin Spacey to be back in film for at least another decade, but I don't think there's any chance of that happening. I mean, I would put the chance at, near zero for that.
I mean, maybe. Yeah, I don't know. Gun to my head, will Kevin Spacey ever appear in a film or TV show again?
In a film made in the United States. I guess I'm sure
I
you can
mean, look
find
at
some
Roman
Eastern
Polanski, look
European
at Mel
country. Yeah.
Gibson, look at
Well, I mean, Roman Polanski is an interesting case because I think by today's standards, I mean, one would have thought even yesterday's standards, he should not have had a career at all after that. I mean, that was what's alleged in his case is completely insane. Although I think, actually, this does
it
connect to our
does. It
previous
absolutely
conversation
does. Yeah.
because, yeah, yeah. So take me there. Hasn't his victim forgiven him, and doesn't she think that his travel ban is
Yeah, she's
unwarranted?
been petitioning the judges to lift the ban for a long time, and they refuse to do it. Again, out of this idea of justice. I mean, you can't. It's hard to even defend on consequentialist standards because it's not like he poses a current danger to the world, or that people will see him being allowed back in the United States and say, "Oh, I guess it's okay for me to have sex with a 13-year-old in Jack Nicholson's hot tub."
Drug and sodomize a
Yeah,
13-year-old in a hot
but
tub?
yeah, so that's a question of where that is a case where her wishes weren't taken into account after many, many years, of her trying.
I think you're on the wrong side of this. This is a perfect example where the victim's wishes and even a person's capacity or likelihood of reoffending is not the right measurement of justice. I mean, I think if you're someone who, now again, I'm assuming that what is alleged here is in fact what happened, but let's grant me that he actually did drug and anally rape I think it was a 13-year-old or a 14-year-old. If you do that, whether or not it seems likely you're going to do that again, based on, your age or anything else, the society has an interest in making an example of you.
Sure, but society has made an example of him, right? I mean, so I don't think that if the victim had wanted to do this 2 years after the fact, that I would have a different opinion about this. But now we're talking about 40 years after the fact, 30 years after the fact, where the victim has had plenty of time to think about it and now what she wants, I think, has to be taken into serious account.
Isn't also part of the problem is that he never admitted did he admit anything, or there has been no mea culpa from him, right?
I don't know the details of the case. I know he fled. So that's another part of the problem is that he did not take responsibility in a way that you would want somebody who's being reintegrated to take responsibility. And I think he's doing that for legal reasons, perhaps. And who knows what sort of private interactions they've had, if they've had any at all. I have no idea. But but yeah, I mean, that's one where I don't think it's a no-brainer, but I do think this idea that we shouldn't take her wishes into account at all, that seems completely wrong to me.
All right, so this is the difference between our moral philosophies. I want to see Roman Polanski in the next justice porn video, and you want him to come back to the US and make movies from the comfort of his home in Beverly Hills.
No, I mean, like, yeah, I could see him he could be in the next justice porn video getting his ass kicked and then also make movies, you know?
Yes, they should be in
They're
the
not
same
mutually
movie. Yes, you
exclusive.
you could integrate them into the same project.
Same exactly. That's the next Roman Polanski joint.